Hi everyone! In this video, we will add rational expressions with different denominators. Add 1 over m squared plus 11m plus 28 plus 6m divided by m squared plus 13m plus 42. The first thing we need to do to add rational expressions with different denominators is to find a common denominator, or the lowest common denominator. To do that, we'll need to factor both denominators. The first one, we'll find factors of c, which is 28. Factors of 28 are 1 and 28, 2 and 14, and 4 and 7, and that's it. Now we need to look at the signs. We have a positive, which means they will both be the same, and a positive means that they will both be positive. So we can fill in our chart over here or our list with a bunch of positives. And we're looking for the combination to give us positive 11, which will be our last one. Plus 4 plus 7 gives us positive 11. And we can replace that, making it m squared plus 4m plus 7m plus 28. Now we need to factor by grouping. We'll group the first two and the last two, and look for the greatest common factor of the first two. And the only thing in common is m. So we'll factor out the m, which leaves us with m plus 4. The greatest common factor of the second two is a positive 7, so we'll factor out a positive 7, leaving us m plus 4. Now that we've factored out the greatest common factor with the first two, we have two terms, and we are now looking for the greatest common factor of these two terms. The greatest common factor here is a binomial of m plus 4, so we'll factor out m plus 4, which leaves us m plus 7. We've now completely factored the first denominator, and we can go to the second one. We need to look for factors of 42. 42 is 1 times 42, and 2 times 21, and 3 times 14, and also 6 times 7. And that's the end of it. So now we need to look at the signs. The positive says that the signs will be the same, and the positive of the middle term says that the signs will all be positive. Now I need to find a combination that will give us positive 13, and that is 6 and 7. So we'll replace the 13 with 6m and 7m, giving us m squared plus 6m plus 7m plus 42. Again, we will factor by grouping. We'll group the first two and the second two. The greatest common factor in the first two is m, leaving us m plus 6. And the greatest common factor of the second two is 7. So we'll factor out a 7, leaving us m, and 42 divided by 7 is 6. Now that we've factored out the greatest common factor the first time, we have two terms here, and we're going to factor out the greatest common factor. In this case, it's the binomial m plus 6. Factoring that out of both terms, that leaves us m plus 7. Now that we have both denominators factored, we can find the lowest common denominator, or the least common denominator. And I see that we do have a factor in common, which means we will only use that one time. So we have m plus 7. And then we need all of the other factors that aren't in common. So we need m plus 4 and m plus 6. Now we know the lowest common denominator, and so each of the rational expressions are missing one of those factors for the lowest common denominator. The first denominator is missing the factor of m plus 6 to match the lowest common denominator. So we need to multiply the numerator and the denominator, and I'm going to multiply it down here to the factor denominator. Need to both be multiplied to the m plus 6 factor to make it the same as the lowest common denominator. Now I need to multiply the numerator and denominator of the second rational expression by its missing term of m plus 4. So we'll multiply numerator m plus 4 and the denominator, and I'm going to multiply that to the factor denominator as well, m plus 4. Now we have the two denominators that match the lowest common denominator. And the numerator will have 1 times m plus 6 for the first one. That just leaves us with m plus 6. And the second one, we have 6m times m plus 4. And each of these are over the common denominator, and when we add, we can combine those with the same common denominator. So these are both over m plus 6 times m plus 7 times m plus 4. Now we just need to simplify the numerator. Let's work with the second one because we need to do the distributive property here. And on the first one, m plus 6, we can just drop off the parentheses, which just has m plus 6. The second part, 6m times m, gives us 6m squared. 6m times 4 is plus 24m. And this is all still over our lowest common denominator, 6m plus 6, m plus 7, m plus 4, and we can combine some like terms in the numerator, m and 24m, and let's put these in descending order so that the m squared is first. So we have 6m squared. Combining the like terms, we get 25m, and then plus 6 at the end, over our lowest common denominator of m plus 6, m plus 7, m plus 4. We've now completed the addition of these rational expressions, and we're all done.